March 18th, Milford City Council meeting. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jackie, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Evans,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parrish,
Here.
Mr. Velardo,
Here.
Mr. Price,
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Cooper,
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Here. And do we have Mr. Lilly here?
I do not see him.
Okay,
so-
we're gonna have a swearing in, but if he
Okay.
comes in, we can swear him in
There
later.
you go.
All right, that takes us to proceedings. Do I have a motion to approve the council meeting proceedings from March 4th?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Parrish,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Yes. That takes us to financial statements. Do I have a motion to receive the February 2025 financial report?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Chamberlain,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Parrish,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
And that takes us to public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a comment? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Hello.
Mary Kipp, 415 Mill Street. The last time I came to council, I was told that you are unable to enforce a more efficient sound ordinance for the River District. With the warmer weather approaching, I wanted to ask if you were able to hold the conversation with the distillery you mentioned pertaining to ways they could make the situation more tolerable for the neighbors.
I have not followed up with them over the winter. They were supposed to be putting panels up when Mr. Dawson and I think, met with them. So we can, as warmer weather approaches, see if those panels came in or what their plan is.
Okay?
So we can do
Thank
that. You're welcome. And would anybody else from the public like to make a comment? All right, that takes us to the city manager report. Mr. Gunderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a very brief report before I turn it over to Chief Mills, who has a far more exciting report than I do. But I just wanted to update council on the IT consultants. We've met with now 3. We've received 2 quotes. We met with another one today. And I think we're nearing the end in terms of coming up with who we would like to select and what those next steps look like. So we're excited to start making some way on that. We will have our second round of interviews for the water department supervisor next Tuesday. We had someone recently submit who is very promising, and we're very excited. So we've got 2 very strong candidates that we're considering at this point. So I'll keep council in the loop on that. I had a conversation with FC Cincinnati Foundation regarding the mini pitch that they plan to bring to Milford. In my email to council on Friday, I provided some pictures regarding a ribbon cutting for the Hamilton FC Cincinnati mini pitch. But that's something that I think will be a huge asset for Milford, and we're in the very beginning stages in terms of identifying what that location looks like, and I think it's very exciting. It'll be a great thing for Milford to have. So that's a $200,000 investment. It's really just a condensed mini soccer field, but it has regular programming as well as availability for the public to play in it as well. So beginning stages of that, but I think that's very exciting. Earlier this week, I had a meeting with Finley Ray as well as the Claremont County Visitors Bureau to discuss how we can further maximize Finley Ray's offerings in terms of soccer fields and baseball fields / softball fields to attract tournaments. That's something that the county is prioritizing in terms of the Visitors Bureaus is tournaments, specifically youth sports tournaments. So they have hired a consultant to sort of reevaluate Finley Ray, and we are sort of in the beginning stages of that, determining what our partnership, what our level of investment would be. So more to come on that. I did want to give a shout out to the police department as well as the service department for doing an outstanding job clearing out the Jim Terrell Park. in preparation for the upcoming season. We've had numerous issues down there, and I think they did a phenomenal job, and they treated everyone fairly. They offered resources, and I won't steal Chief Mills's report if he has that in there, but I did want to give a shout out to him and everyone else involved. I also wanted to congratulate Sergeant Chastain on 10 years here with the Milford Police Department. I also read in the report he recently had a child, so it's a big year for him. And then I wanted to lastly give a warm welcome to our newest Water Department employee, Jacob Moore, who will be starting on March 31st. And that is all I have. Farmers markets material I have not forgotten about. I haven't received any further comments. Therefore, I will make the needed revisions from last meeting. We'll get that sent out as quickly as possible.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
That takes us to Chief Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to present the 2024 Milford Police Department Annual Report. The annual report serves as a yearly summary of department data, statistical information, and metrics that allow us to measure the effectiveness of our deliverable services. My presentation tonight will focus on the critical functions of our operation. However, the full report is available on our website at milfordohio.org. As usual, the men and women of the Milford Police Department rose to the challenge and took advantage of every opportunity to provide our community with excellence in policing, but doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reason. We had another busy and productive year in terms of succession planning, problem solving, and community relations. Our commitment to ensuring Milford remains a safe place to live, work, and visit remained strong. Thanks to a partnership with the Milford Schools and the support of City Council, we added our first school resource officer. A generous donation from the Cincinnati Rotary Club allowed us to equip our patrol units with AEDs. We expanded our Project Lifesaver team to include every officer, so we're consistently poised to respond without delay. We honored the careers of 2 outstanding sergeants, one of whom is in the audience tonight, who earned honorable retirements. We promoted 2 new sergeants and welcomed 4 new members from our lateral entry program. Our dedication to community engagement remained steadfast. We maintained all of our previous partnerships and created 2 new programs. Magnify Education, a local online learning company, partnered with us to develop a new diversity program called Building Empathy. And we implemented No Tricks, Just Treats, whereby we delivered Halloween candy to disabled children in the community. We held our 11th Citizens Police Academy and found new ways to utilize our dedicated volunteers. And last, but certainly not least, we topped off the year by welcoming our new city manager. As you'll see from this report, the results of the hard work and dedication of my staff are undeniable. It's an honor to work with such dedicated professionals in the service of a grateful and supportive community. In 2024, we patrolled 129,000 miles, received 50 hours of in-service training, wrote 12,976 reports, made 469 arrests, conducted 3,194 traffic stops, investigated 276 auto accidents, and issued 1,851 citations. Notice the direct relationship between traffic stops, represented by the red and green lines, and auto accidents, represented by the blue line. Part 1 crimes have continued to steadily decline since 2014. Research suggests the reduction could be attributed to high visibility enforcement, preventative patrols, or community policing. I don't have any empirical data to support those theories. Nonetheless, it's good news. Are there any questions so far? Response to resistance, also referred to as use of force, is the highest liability function in our operation. Because it falls into the low-frequency, high-risk category, we consistently train officers on de-escalation tactics, case law updates, and techniques for taking a resistant subject into custody as safely as possible. Whenever an officer uses force or displays a weapon, his or her actions are reviewed by at least 2 levels of command, and annually, I conduct an analysis to identify any patterns or trends that would indicate a need for a policy change or additional training. In 2024, officers detained 3,663 people and had only 4 responses to resistance. The aforementioned use of force on arrested or detained people indicates that 99.999% of the time, Milford Police Department officers accomplish their mission without any use of force. This level of force is within the FBI parameters of use of force involving 1% of all arrested or detained persons. I found no consistent variable in terms of officer involved, suspect, location, or race that would indicate an identifiable trend or causative factors for concern. The 4 instances of a response to resistance in 2024 represents an increase of 2 over last year. But with only 4 occurrences, a significant in-depth analysis is impossible. However, the following findings are provided. There were no complaints filed resulting from a response to resistance. 75% of the incidents where weaponless tactics were required involved suspects refusing to comply with lawful orders. 25% of the incidents involved a suspect actively resisting by pulling away and kicking officers. 25% of the incidents involved the use of medical restraints applied to the suspect. The arresting officer attempted physical and verbal de-escalation tactics in all incidents. The average age of suspects in the incidents for weaponless tactics were used was 33. 75% were Caucasian, 25% African American. The gender of the suspects was evenly split. 50% of the suspects were under the influence of drugs, and again, there was no discernible trend or pattern relating to officer involved, suspect, location, or race that would indicate an identifiable trend or causative factors for concern. Are there any questions on response to resistance? Traffic pursuits are another high-risk, low-frequency practice and therefore must be closely scrutinized. Milford police officers may initiate an emergency vehicle pursuit whenever a law violator clearly exhibits the intention of avoiding arrest by using a vehicle to flee or elude an officer. However, a justified pursuit occurs only when the necessity of apprehension outweighs the level of danger created by the pursuit. An administrative review is completed by the officer supervisor after each pursuit to determine if the pursuit was within policy and to address equipment and training needs. The administrative review was forwarded to the assistant chief and me for final approval. However, in 2024, there were no pursuits initiated by Milford officers, nor did any officer assist with an outside agency pursuit. As a reminder, we conduct in-service training on emergency vehicle operations and review our policy annually. And in the last 8 years, we terminated 78% of pursuits in the interest of traffic safety. So we didn't have any last year. We didn't have any the year before, I don't believe. But going back to the previous 8 years, of the ones that we did initiate, we terminated 78% on our end. It just wasn't worth it for us. So I think that shows a lot of good discretion. Any questions on traffic pursuits? One of the most important functions administered through my office is that of internal affairs. As a contemporary police agency, we engage in high liability activities with the corresponding need to maintain the integrity of our operations and ethical conduct of our members. It's our policy to investigate all complaints and allegations in a manner that will ensure the community prompt corrective action in the event of employee misconduct, while at the same time protecting our employees from unwarranted criticism pursuant to the proper discharge of their duties. In 2024, there were 2 investigations resulting from a citizen complaint and 2 internal complaints that were initiated by a member of the command staff. The low ratio of complaints compared to the thousands of contacts with the public initiated by department employees is indicative of a self-disciplined professional staff. Any questions? A fundamental right guaranteed by both the U.S. and Ohio constitutions is the Equal Protection Clause. Everyone, citizen and alien alike, is entitled to walk, drive, and move about in public free from police interference so long as they obey the law. Those who commit infractions must receive equal and fair treatment regardless of their race, color, ethnicity, sex, sexual orientation, physical handicap, religion, or other belief system. Our officers receive annual anti-bias training, and sergeants are tasked with daily monitoring of officer-initiated contacts to identify unusual patterns that would indicate the presence of bias-based profiling. The annual review of our practices, procedures, and training showed no indication of impropriety, and the number of traffic citations and written warnings issued in 2024 is representative of the demographics of our service population. Any questions? The annual report not only showcases our strengths, it also identifies areas where we could improve. Each year, we identify specific measurable goals that we strive as a team to achieve. Our goals for 2024 were to expand our Project Lifesaver team. And as you've previously heard, I'm pleased to report we've now trained our entire patrol team to ensure we're poised to respond to a missing client 24/7, 365. Reducing senior scam victims. Unfortunately, due to turnover in the investigative unit, we weren't able to conduct fraud prevention presentations as we had planned, and we experienced a slight increase in those scams in 2024. And we had a partial achievement in the goal of reducing the number of underage tobacco and vape product sales. Although it's not possible to measure underage sales that we don't know about, we conducted directed patrols to deter vape businesses from selling to minors and expanded our juvenile delinquency prevention efforts through our new school resource officer position. Moving forward, our goals for 2025 are to develop and implement a drone program. I'm pleased to report that through a donation from the now former Day Heights Firefighters Memorial, we have a drone on order already on our 2025 goals. Our next goal is to improve pedestrian safety and crosswalks. In addition to participating in discussions regarding the Main Street Lila Avenue streetscaping, we will produce a public service announcement on pedestrian safety this year. And lastly, reducing complaints regarding homelessness encampments in Terrell Park. I'm pleased to report on this one. We've also achieved this goal already through an empathetic, multidisciplinary approach. We leveraged resources which balanced service with safety while utilizing legal means to restore the trail system to its intended use. That concludes my report. Are there any questions? Okay, well, if anyone in the community has a question, you can reach me by telephone or by email at jmills@milfordohio.org.
Thank you for
Thank you,
all.
Chief.
that
Yeah.
Robert's
Thank
done.
you, Chief.
Yes.
Hey, it's unfortunate, because I have people who watch, evidently we are not broadcasting tonight. I don't know, he said there's a glitch, so just FYI. So unfortunately, Jamie, we'll have to watch it on reruns.
I'll do it again next council
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Are we being recorded or?
Chief, maybe what we can do is we can have Shannon put this on Facebook. I know you said it's on the website, but maybe that's something that we can do, or even if we create
Should be
a
able to at some point.
office hours with the city manager,
Yeah.
little highlight reel,
Yeah, sure. Be
bring
happy
that
to do
smile. There we go.
Any questions on my February monthly report also? I wasn't going to review it. It's about 3 weeks old at this point. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
the hard work.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. That takes us to District Chief Miller and police, or Fire and EMS. Welcome.
Whoa, thank you. Mine will be really short. Parts for our primary engine have finally come in, so that unit is going out to be repaired. Should be about a week or two. That has been out of service now for quite a while, so we're happy that it's getting repaired and coming back. The Milford, Miami Township Addiction Response Team is going to be discontinued in July. This program started 2017, I believe, is when we started doing that. It's been a very good program. Sadly, probably not sadly, fortunately, we've helped a lot of people, and the services are no longer needed. What we have been doing is going out every Tuesday for probably 2 or 3 hours, us in Miami Township. And so we're in a position now where that's not being as effective. So we're going to scale it back, and what you'll see now is we just go out on an as-needed basis. So instead of just doing Tuesdays, we can come out any day, but it'll be more as like a on-call type thing. So the service will still be available, just not going to be every Tuesday anymore. That is all I have.
All right, well,
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. That takes us to council comments. Anyone from council have a comment?
I do. I have a couple of comments. First comment that I have is I would love to invite the public and council to our Arbor Day celebration this year, which is going to take place on Friday, April 25th, and it's going to be at 4 o'clock at Riverside Park. Down by the Legion. We have a special presentation where we are going to be celebrating a very special tree that has a great history, and we're going to talk about the history of the city and what the city looked like at the time of this tree's lifetime. So I invite all the public to come down to that, and we're going to have the Historical Society with us, and so there'll be lots of things for kids to do and adults as well. And then also, a few weeks ago, I met with Christy Auld, who is from the Coalition Against Big Trucks. And apparently there is another proposal, actually it came up last week again, federal legislation to increase commercial truck size by thousands of pounds. And so they are trying to visit all kinds of municipalities to get support from municipalities against raising these rates. So I gave each one of you a letter. Should I read it and then we'll come back next, council? Do I need to read the letter or to let the public know what you guys are reading, or what, do I need to do that?
She wants us to approve that we can send this in.
Can we just do a motion and then we'll just make this an attachment to the motion?
Okay.
So maybe just, I mean, you kind of summarized it
Yep.
already, so.
Make a motion to send this letter to Senator Marino, Senator John Husted, and Representative David Taylor.
I'd second that.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes. That's all I got.
Thank you.
I had a couple things.
Yes.
Lots going on in April, but Easter extravaganza, which has been publicly noticed. But also just the day after Arbor Day is spring litter cleanup, and you do need to go to Claremont County Soil Water Conservation District. Jackie, do you have that information in your office? I know we have it, but
I have the contact for that department in Claremont County, so if
Okay.
anybody would like to register,
Okay.
typically they'll put it online
Okay.
on their website,
Yeah.
and we will also place it on
Yeah.
Facebook.
okay.
Yeah.
But springlittercleanup.com/events, so that's where you can find that and where you can sign up. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I just, real quick, last week, city manager attended also, but the Claremont County Chamber put on their economic forecast last week. Very informative. Actually was much more positive than, obviously there are some major moving parts in the economy and things like that, but overall, they predicted next 3 to 5 years as still being very strong economically in this area. Again, those factors can change. One of the biggest things, if we, globally went to war, that would obviously affect us. But, and really predicted 2030 is the year that we really need to worry about at this point. So it was a much more positive speech and data that was presented that I had anticipated. But if you ever get a chance, I highly recommend. It's an hour and a half out of your day, but it's just a very informative session. And plus, it's a great opportunity to almost every of the other stakeholders and people involved in the county are there. So it's just a real great opportunity. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, that takes us to the committee of the whole meeting. Do I have a motion to open the committee of the whole meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
All right, Jackie, will you call the roll?
Ms. Evans?
Yes, here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Velardo?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Here. Does anybody want to make a public comment during the committee of the whole meeting? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to Mr. Gunderson.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing I would like to start with is a quote that we received for a grinder gearbox. That's the first agenda item. This is needed in the wastewater plant for one of the booster stations. So essentially what this does, and maybe everyone up here knows, but in case anyone in the community doesn't, essentially what it does is it grinds down solids, so typically like rags and stuff that's pushed down the, if they flush it down the toilet, stuff of that nature, to the booster, the pump station. So it just breaks it down, so it helps with our equipment to ensure it doesn't get clogged up and or destroyed. So Due to this being above my spending limit, and this being needed, I would like or request an ordinance to get this purchased.
I'll make a motion that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Henry P. Thompson Company for grinder gearbox parts and labor for $9,618 parts, or dollars. Or parts. I don't know how many parts are involved, but
Second.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item I want to discuss is, I have been working with, or in discussion with two lobbyist firms. One of them being one that we've used previously, for example, the water tower grant, the $3 million grant we got. They were involved with that. The state capital funds we received last year for 2 years ago for 5 Points Landing. So really why I think having a lobbyist on board is important is because we as a city need to ensure that we're staying up to date on legislation. So whether it's heavy trucks, whether it's the marijuana revenues, income tax stuff, there's always topics thrown around. So it's important that we stay informed and we know what's going on in terms of the legislation. Secondly, we can use a lobbyist to help us with it could be economic development. It could be something like funding for a water line or any of the projects that we do on a year-to-year basis. So they can seek and they can advocate on our behalf for certain funding opportunities. So I have met with two of them. I'm recommending DSD Advisors, and you can see the scope of it, but essentially what they'll do is they'll be providing me with updates in terms of what's going through the legislative bodies. If there's any projects that we're looking at getting completed, but we have a funding gap, for example, they can assist with funding or finding other funding options. So this, I believe, is a huge asset that we can have on board for a very reasonable cost, as well as we'll have bi-weekly calls to discuss this, any of the relevant items. So I ask that council consider this and draft a motion to allow us to engage with DSD Advisors.
I would also just like to say, I called a couple of these communities on there, and one of the biggest benefits they feel is that instead of being a group, how we've been in the past, you have someone who specifically is dealing with your issues. So it's not more globally, so that if the city of Milford has an issue that we are passionate about, it certainly is advantageous. And so I certainly would support this also.
And that client list is in that packet, so you'll notice there's quite a few municipalities on there as well, several of which I know personally, and they've had the same thought as it relates to DSD, that they provide a lot of value.
I would make a motion that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with DSD Advisors LLC to render government relations services from April 2025 through June of 2026 for the amount of $2,000 per month.
Second?
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Next on the item or the agenda is GEST, Zero Emission Multi-Passenger Vehicle Golf Cart Transportation 3-year contract. This is simply for discussion amongst council. I just want to emphasize that. This is, I've actually had quite a few meetings with the company as well as with the mayor, and this did pre-exist my time, but I am 100% on board with this project itself. So I did draft a little document for council to read, but in the back you'll see what the proposal is in terms of what our price is. So over 3 years, the total cost would be about $585,000. Now, just keep that in the back of your mind, but hear me out as we work through this. So we'll have peak season, which is May through August, And you'll see within that quote, there's throughout the week, there's different days with different times, okay? I know that there's been discussion in the past, I don't know how much of it actually came to council, but with what we are looking at doing is all of the liability, all of the employees, this would all be on the company itself. All we're simply doing is paying for the service and paying for the golf carts. So the city would receive, under this proposal, 4 golf carts. It's a 3 golf cart rotation, okay? We would have a defined area, what they call the geofence. So it could stretch all the way up to Oak Brook. It could stretch all the way down to South Milford. I think some of the territory actually went out to Finley Ray Park. So it's really a broad area. And as I put in my memo, the objective is to improve accessibility and to mitigate some of the traffic congestion within the downtown business district. But I think the accessibility goes throughout the city of Milford. So to sort of break this apart, and once again, I put this in the memo, this is just something to consider at this point. The total cost is $585,000. There's 4 golf carts that we'd receive. Now, the golf carts have the ability, and I'll send pictures to council so you can see this, but we have the ability to put a wrap on the golf cart and market it. So we can set the price. It could be $500, it could be $500,000, just throwing out random numbers. We have the ability to receive all of those revenues, so that doesn't go back to the company at all. So I think that's one way that we significantly reduce the total cost of that project. Under the current quote, the cost to utilize these golf carts would be nothing. It would be free. I'm not making a pitch one way or another, but that would be another revenue source that we could use. And you think, if you go down to Cincinnati, right, you're spending $8-10 to park in a parking lot, and then you have to walk all over the city, right? So by creating or by utilizing this sort of system, we would create different off-site parking spots and different loading spots, similar to like a bus route. And people would wait there, they'd pull up the app, they would request a ride, and then you can be taken, within that defined area. So that is one thing to consider as well. The other thing is there's certain things called a special improvement district. It's called a SID. And communities all over the state utilize this, and a lot of that has to do with, it could be shoveling sidewalks, it could be landscaping. It's what you do is you're levying an additional fee, and typically that goes off of the amount of frontage in terms of your property that you have within that specific area. So what I would look to do, and this is just me throwing it out there, can we create a special improvement district and say, hey, as a property owner, we believe you're going to benefit from this. We believe you're going to benefit it because it's more accessible. People are more inclined to go from one place to another when it's not as much of a hassle. It also allows for more cars to be off the main street, so you're hopefully attracting more people. And I just think it's a really a good way to drive more traffic into the area. And it's once again, it's improving accessibility and mitigating the traffic concerns within the downtown. So I wanted council to consider this. I'm open to answering any questions or hearing any comments. Once again, this is just for discussion. But I hope council doesn't get lost in the $585,000. I know that's a significant amount. We actually got it down from about $800,000 because we cut off the months, the winter months, and we were also to spread the costs over 3 years versus 1 year. That was another way we were able to reduce the amount. But it's a high dollar amount, but I think that there's plenty of ways that we can try to offset that amount in which it not only becomes useful in terms of people utilizing the vehicle, but it becomes very cost effective for us as a city. So that's all I have to say. I'll turn it over to council if there's any comments, or I can answer any questions.
I just want to say that, Wesley, I've met with the company at least 4 or 5 times over the past, we've been talking about this for 4 or 5 years. And it's always been a cost thing, obviously. My big thing is, I think it would help, it's a lot cheaper than a parking garage. It would help with parking, because we could direct people like to Riverside Park or places that would be a stop. They could park there and then get a cart. I also think there probably has to be grants out there in some way, because people could use this that live in areas that they maybe can't walk to a grocery. They could use this to get to a grocery store. Some of our neighborhoods that maybe might need that assistance. So I think there probably would be some kind of grants we could also try to get to offset the cost.
I wonder if Green Umbrella might have some
That's-
insight
yeah, that's what I
into
was
that type of
thinking.
thing, especially because these are zero emission. So
Right,
they
yeah.
might be able to point us in the right direction.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. The other question I have, because it says the city will receive 4 electric golf carts, do those go away at the end of the 3-year contract, or are we going to keep those?
No, so how this is quoted is we will purchase those golf carts. So after the 3 years, all we would have to purchase after that is the maintenance agreement if we choose to do so. Otherwise, I mean, not that we have anyone necessarily internally that is specifically focused on golf cart repairs. Maybe we have someone that can, but that would be the only additional, that cost would reduce or would lessen.
I know before when we met with them, there was an option for us just to like lease them from them. Would that make it any cheaper or not? I don't remember all our cost options before.
So this is essentially us leasing it. It follows the typical government
Okay.
leasing where you're really not leasing it, you're just financing it over
Okay.
X amount of years. Same with our street sweeper that we're leasing.
And they're providing all the employees and everything as
So,
well.
yep, they provide the employees and the insurance, on both the employees and the golf carts.
They take all calls if there's any concerns. It's probably something, I don't know if we could link it off our new city app or,
I would agree with that. They do all the marketing for it. I mean, it's truly, they're running the show, and we're just simply providing a space for them to park the carts and a space in which they can operate.
we had talked before about that geofence would probably start smaller, but then hopefully we could adjust it as time goes. You can change it any time. Because I even thought it might provide a lot of people that live in the city, they might use it, and that's, again, one less car downtown. You know, South Milford, East Milford, if people would ride that down, they're not taking up a parking space for somebody else.
I didn't do the math, but do we know what the cost, I mean, all these hours add up to, I don't know what those numbers are, but the cost, because we're never running it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday in this proposal. So, I'm just curious, the cost per, hour or whatever that we're really funding, and to take into account, and, obviously, my thing, and I know you're gonna, get frustrated with me when I talk about that big number, but it is a big number. And it's a number we did not budget. It's a number that we did not, and, I would certainly want to be able to do a deep dive into the budget before we would even come close to committing to that kind of cost. And plus, I'm certainly intriguing about the SID, is that right, SID? About basically sharing the cost, because the business owners are gonna benefit from this. And I think the city is trying to be very proactive with a lot of things that we do, with the parking and what we've tried to propose there. So I do believe that there, from a resident standpoint, that there should be some sharing of that cost and expense. So I would certainly be interested in looking at that as another way to fund this. And again, the
sponsorship.
the sponsorship. I think
Yeah.
the sponsorship is vital
Yes.
for us to really consider, because it'd be great if we could just, fund that, but I don't think that's a reality.
Yeah.
So.
And the cost does seem big, but I guess too, when you divide it by 3, like per year, it's not doesn't sound as bad anyway.
Well, and that's kind of what I was asking, is how many hours is that? 5 to 10, what is that? And
That's they'll have 3 employees,
Right.
3 drivers.
So, and that's for basically, we're not running it January through March, it looks like, right? Am I reading that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that can all, again, I think if I'm correct, that can all be adjusted. So if we see it's really popular, we need to add a day, we can do that at any time, or cut that, whatever the
Sure.
case may be.
And it's actually December through May, it wouldn't be operated, but once again, it can be adjusted. And you'll see on the proposal itself, at the end of the summer, towards the end of the summer, they're going to come out with a new ADA vehicle, which would allow for wheelchair accessibility. So we have the ability to pull in another cart, golf cart, that would help serve another need as well. So it can fluctuate. The area can change. We can change the area in which it operates. So it is very flexible in terms of some of these operations, or some of these variables, excuse me.
And am I correct in saying, I think these aren't just typical golf carts, like they're enclosed?
They've got
Like
like
a
those
little car on
plastic,
them.
like raincoats
Yeah,
on
yeah.
them.
No, it's
No, they're
Or
more
are
like,
they,
even like a little
even
car.
more so,
Yes.
like a little car? Okay.
So I'll send pictures to council. I apologize, I got them late. I can send it to you now, but yeah, it's not like a golf course with the plastic stuff. I mean,
Okay.
they're true carts.
Okay. Because they have evolved. I mean, I've seen
Yes.
them downtown.
Yeah.
They have definitely changed their,
Like, how many people do they hold?
I guess like six, is it?
It'd be 5 plus the driver, so 6.
And you can, at least when we talked to him before, you could charge people like $1 a ride, but we were trying to work it out as a free service from the city.
To start.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely need to help with parking in the
Yes.
city. We've talked about that a long time, so see how this goes.
Yeah, are you envisioning that they'll use their app to let them know where,
Yes.
like use the city app in a, or whatever
Or-
to,
Yes.
whatever it is,
Or
that
do they
you
have
were
their
parked
own
at your
app?
location, you would call them, they would come.
Correct. So you can actually download their app now. We would link it to the city app, and then it would just take you to that app. But you type in the location, so a lot of different stops, right? Just like a bus stop, and then it'll give you the wait time. You'll type in your information like you typically do with like an Uber or something of that nature, and then they would come and pick you up. Once they, it goes by priority in terms of how long you've been waiting and do you have room. But that's how it operates. So Cincinnati, there's a lot of the big cities that have them. I believe Dayton has them. So this is something that is more simplified in terms of the bigger operations. But as I put in my memo, I think that if we can figure out the pricing component, I think this separates us amongst our peers because we do have this service, and there's a parking issue, but people also don't like to walk 10 miles all the time. Some people do, but some people don't. So this is just another service we can offer.
Any other questions or thoughts?
So I guess
This
next steps, do we have an HMA meeting coming up?
Would be the first Wednesday next month.
Okay. So in terms of next steps, not that we'd pass this tonight, but if we did, they could start in May. We can continue to push this back as long as possible. Maybe it'd be nice to go to HMA and present this and say, as downtown businesses, not that necessarily everyone's going to be there, but we got a good group. What are your thoughts on this? And also that of that special improvement district. Would you consider paying an additional amount? And it doesn't have to be just be tied to the golf carts. Maybe there's other things that we work into that as well. It comes down to dollars, of course, but.
Yeah. We talked about that after the 12 inches of snow.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if there was a way, as a collective, that the sidewalks could be cleared.
Yeah.
Some were, some weren't, they get icy. There's the constant debate, the legalities of, are you better off to shovel it, more likely to get sued because you made some attempt and no attempt? So I guess the question that I think HMA would ask would be, what kind of a rate would it be per foot of, per linear foot of your storefront? Like a rough idea.
That's a good question. I'll have to look into that. I mean, I think a lot of that comes down to what actual services are being offered. You look at the city of Hamilton, the shoveling of snow, that's included in their special improvement district. So I guess it would depend upon what we're trying to include in there. So I mean, we could. So it would be hard for me to give a true number, but I could go off of like, hey, this is what other cities have done, and this is what's being charged. And I'll try to find something that's somewhat comparable, and maybe that could be a starting point.
And I think the starting point would be really for the carts, with the understanding that, oh, if we create this district, there could be other conversations of things that, moving forward. I mean, as a business owner with a very long building, when you said that, I thought to myself, what kind of a rate is it? I mean, I like the idea, and I will tell you that every week, people come in and complain about the parking. Every week. So it is I mean, all of us would like to figure out some way to do that. The other issue, which I don't know how you correct, is a lot of the parking just gets taken by employees.
Biggest,
Comment, you know.
And is there some way to maybe
Is there-
incorporate that with
Well, the
this as
employees
well?
could ride this.
Yes,
Well, and
yes.
that's why I think it's so key to have that off-site parking spot. And you look at the parking area by the water plant, okay? It's still close enough. It's not too far
Right.
from the downtown, but that could be one centralized spot. I don't know how many cars you can fit there, but that's just one example. And then you stay there until the cart comes around, and then we bring you to downtown. But I think, for the employees and the business owners and stuff of that nature, we've got to have that partnership, because, they benefit just as much as we do as a community when the customers are able to be parked as closely to the business as possible, right? As close to the business as possible, I would think. I would think most businesses would say yes. So to me, if we can get some of the local traffic out of the way, so the visiting traffic can be closer, I would think that's a win-win, but I guess we'll see.
I would say also maybe go ahead and reach out to like Jeff Weiler, Mike Cristrucci, the brewery, like some of the bigger companies in town to get an
Well, and
idea about
big box
sponsorship.
stores. I mean,
Yeah, big box
Kroger,
stores.
Walmart,
Yeah,
Target.
yeah.
I mean, even though they're parking ample places, I mean, maybe
They might, just for the
if
advertisement, they
somebody
might be willing
brought,
to
yeah,
sponsor a
they
cart.
might.
well, I was thinking too, you were just talking about how do we utilize Finley Ray better, or things like that. Like, if I was down at a tournament at Finley Ray, it could be kind of interesting to have
Yeah.
those guests, taking them to either downtown or other areas, because you always hear about how traffic is horrible.
Getting out
Leaving
of
that
there.
parking lot
Yes.
and stuff like that as well, but.
The other thing that I think you'd probably have comments on is certainly 99% of the retail closes at 5. I mean, maybe not during the holiday season, but
This might be more restaurant oriented
on
than retail.
Thursdays and Fridays, if it was 5 to 10 and 5 to 11, the retailers are gonna go, well, I'm closed.
But it's not gonna benefit.
So
Them per
is
se.
that the discussion? It's similar to, you hear about like second Fridays or second Saturdays, stuff of that nature, and the pitch is always, hey, we need you to stay open past, 5 o'clock, because we're trying to create, that consistency, and we're trying to drive more traffic. So is that a discussion where we say, hey, would you consider staying open more or shifting some of your hours on some of those days? Is that something, I mean, that can always be a discussion, but I'm just curious if that's something that maybe entices people to stay open or shift their hours. So that way we're creating, I don't want to say a nightlife, but in a sense, the post 5 PM.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a conversation that we've certainly had multiple times. I can just say, and I haven't been open on Fridays and Saturdays consistently since, I've been open 10 years. So for the first 2 years I was open, I stayed open 7 days a week and Friday and Saturday until 8. After 2 years, I just realized that while you have some foot traffic, it's really people who are just looking to waste 20 minutes while they wait for a table. They're not actively doing anything. Now, I've recently kind of considered, because the mornings, the hours have shifted dramatically. I mean, I was thinking about it today, going, oh, maybe I should open at 11 or 12 and stay open until 7 or 8. And see, because the mornings have gotten very quiet over the last year and a half or 2 years. So, I mean, again, I think that's all good conversation for HMA, but just in looking at those hours and to your conversation, I like the idea of the district, and I get that it benefits the businesses, but I think people are gonna want to understand in a ballpark, what does that look like? Is it $500, $1,000, $5,000?
Understood.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Definitely, let's follow up, more discussion about that,
Okay,
I guess.
alrighty. Any other comments on that? All right, moving on, thank you. Next agenda item is the Rosie's Fireworks 2025 contract. This is for Sparks in the Park. This is the same exact amount as last year. Due to this being over my spending limit, I am requesting an ordinance from council to purchase the fireworks.
I would go ahead and make a motion that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Rosie Inc., DBA Rosie's Famous Fireworks, to provide fireworks for Sparks in the Park at the cost not to exceed $11,000 even.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is hiring a finance department consultant. I am asking council for permission to hire a finance department consultant, Tom Vanderhorst, to help with some of our efficiency and effectiveness within the finance department. We've had some turnover over the last few years, and I think that this is a good opportunity to really determine, is there a way we can be more efficient with internal controls? What is it that we are not doing with our finances that would allow us to leverage them more? Tom is very experienced. He's been a finance director and for many, many years. Very smart. He understands economic development as well as the finance side of things. So this would be a short-term assignment, we'll call it. But due to this being over my spending limit after 1 month, I need council to approve an ordinance, please.
I would go ahead and make a motion that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a consultant agreement with Tom Vanderhorst.
Second?
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Thank you. And last on the agenda, I wanted to discuss the third floor of City Hall, the rent agreement. Currently, we have Control Bionics that is up there renting the space. I do not believe this is their first lease agreement. However, they have been a very good tenant. They're a great company. I was actually up there last week or the week before, and they really have some very impressive technology. But for the purpose of this discussion, their lease agreement is ending, and I think, we need to reevaluate what that amount looks like. They are certainly getting a bargain in terms of what the market rate is. It is good space. It is actually quite a nice office up there. I know they've invested some money. We've invested some money. So due to this being the end of the lease agreement, I wanted to bring this before council. Within the agreement itself, they've got a provision that states that they can extend it 1 year under the current rate at the end of their contract. So either way, they're going to exercise that option, is my understanding. With that being said, they have communicated that they want to stay in that space, and they are asking for a new contract. And I think this is something we need to consider and sort of help me establish that rate so we can present that to them and hopefully get them signed for another X period of time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not commercial real estate, but I think that's called Class C, would be classified as Class C probably, because it's over 20 years old and what have you. If you look at the rates for Class C, we're getting 86 cents or 89 cents a square foot right now. The cheapest I could find just by Class C was I think $6, and that's but most of them were between $12 and $15. So obviously, we are under, so I do believe that's something that we really need to address, even the first year, but if they would be willing to negotiate maybe a step.
Progressive, that's
Yeah,
something.
a
You don't
step.
want to sock
Yeah.
it to them all at once, but maybe
And,
like year 1, year 2.
and if they say no, then they just know that it's gonna be at market rate next year. So they can either take a basically a hit or something, just to phase that in. I think that would certainly be in our best interest.
I would agree with that.
I'd agree.
So is council comfortable enough with me to continue those conversations, figure out if we can come to an agreement on something, and then I can come back to council and present that, and we can go from there? Does that sound
Absolutely.
like a good approach?
Sounds like a great idea.
All right,
Thank
easy
you.
enough. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to close the committee of the whole?
So moved?
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
All right, that takes us back to our regular meeting, and we have new businesses. Mr. Pacheco?
Mayor, thank you. I did, just very briefly, before I get started here, two things. One, I did find a couple of nice SID brochures. So if it's okay with Mr. Gunderson, I'll just send that to council when my service is not very good in here, so I was gonna send it to you while I was here, but I will get to both of those. There's an 8-page one from Dayton, which is kind of explains what Dayton does. And Brad Rue in our office does this all the time, so he's a great resource. He may have something even better. But I'll send you two. One's from Dayton, which is what they do, and then there's one that was put out by Cuyahoga County. It's 38 pages. It explains the whole SID process, but it's really nice and it's got cool pictures, so.
To that point, do you have any communities that you work with right now that have anything like that, or any type of assessment district?
Me personally, no, but I know Brad has set those up, so I know Dinsmore does, absolutely. And we definitely would lend our experience in in that regard. So happy to set that up, Benjamin, whenever you feel the time is necessary.
Kind of like your experience.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Just-
Not that
just-
you're getting any more money, but,
As long as I get Diet Cokes, I'm all right.
Six-pack of Diet Coke.
Exactly, at least. And then the other thing, to Mr. Gunderson's point, just to be aware of Senate Bill 104, which some of you have seen in the various municipal law, OML, other organizations. Senate Bill 104 would outlaw your ability to outlaw short-term rentals. Now, we have that case pending before Judge Barrett. It is still pending before Judge Barrett, and Judge Barrett will decide when he decides. But right now, Senate Bill 104 could pull the rug out from underneath all of it as it's currently constituted. So you should be aware of that, and if you have a view of that, if it's coordinated or you have your own individual view as your own First Amendment rights, you should be aware of that as well. But so Senate Bill 104 is up there percolating and would, again, outlaw your ability to outlaw short-term rentals. And with that, I will move on to unless there's any questions, I will move on to the ordinances. Ordinance number 25-343, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Henry P. Thompson Company for grinder, gearbox parts, and labor for $9,618. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City council hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into contract with Henry P. Thompson for grinder, gearbox parts, and labor for $9,618 per the attached quote. The attached quote is fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-343, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Henry P. Thompson Company for grinder, gearbox parts, and labor for $9,618.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-344, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with DSD Advisors LLC to render government relations services from April 2025 through June 2026 for $2,000 per month. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City council hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with DSD Advisors LLC to render government relations services from April 2025 through June 2026 at a cost of $2,000 per month. The attached contract is fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second?
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-344, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with DSD Advisors LLC to render government relations services from April 2025 through June 2026 for $2,000 per month.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-345, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Rozzi Inc., DBA Rozzi's Famous Fireworks, to provide fireworks for Sparks in the Park at a cost not to exceed $11,000. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to enter a contract with Rozzi Inc., DBA Rozzi's Famous Fireworks, to provide fireworks for Sparks in the Park at a cost not to exceed $11,000. The attached contract is fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-345, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract with Rozzi Inc., DBA Rozzi's Famous Fireworks, to provide fireworks for Sparks in the Park at a cost not to exceed $11,000.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-346, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a consultant agreement with Tom Vanderhorst. Section 1, the Council of the City of Milford hereby authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with Tom Vanderhorst to provide consulting services concerning city operations and efficiencies for a rate not to exceed $6,000 per month. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-346, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a consultant agreement with Tom Vanderhorst.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mayor, one other thing, I apologize, and on the marijuana bills, you have competing bills there too. You have Senate Bill 56, or substitute Senate Bill 56, which essentially, in so many words, doesn't change what was passed with issue 2. There's some permutations to that, but essentially doesn't change, and most importantly for the local share revenue, doesn't change that revenue percentage, which is 3.6% or 3.6% of the total, or 36% of 10%, whatever you want to, however you want to characterize it. The other thing is that there is now House Bill 96, which is the governor's budget. House Bill 96 would change that revenue number from 10% to 20%, but would give it all to the state to spend. And now there's House Bill 106, which House Bill 106 would reduce the 3.6% to 2.0%. And also Senate Bill 56 and House Bill 106 give you more power, home rule power, to kind of knit some of the home grow or some of the other public use provisions. So it is a mess right now. So to be able to kind of wait and see what happens, because you have 3 competing bills, they're obviously gonna have to be reconciled at some point. And so just so that, and I know you all are aware of it anyway, and Mr. Gunderson already mentioned it, but those are still percolating, and we'll see what happens. But be aware of all those changes coming.
Our lobbyist will be busy.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And they don't get paid by the hour like other folks.
Thank you for all that information.
Thank you.
I don't believe we have any old business, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
All right, thank you all.